Welcome, everybody, to the second episode here of Oh Captain, My Captain. I'm the host, no pun intended, Joshua Hudson, and with me, as always, the captain himself, Oklahomie Doug. How we doing, brother?
Ahoy, ahoy, homies. What's going on, buddy?
It's going great, man. Another Thursday morning, getting ready for Thursday night football. Things you love to see.
Got a good
All
one.
right. Yes, very, very good week. I saw an interesting stat. This is the best Thursday night matchup we've ever seen since like 1916 or something, with like 2-11-0 teams. So
Right,
it's
right. But,
gearing up for a great matchup.
however, we have to hurry this along because I have to get on a plane to Arizona to play wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. Back to you in studio.
Not kidding. Green Bay is hurting right now at wide receiver. Devontae Adams landed on the COVID-19 list along with teammate Alan Lazard. This is where that trade for Randall Cobb might come into play here. So before we get into the Thursday night matchup for week 8, let's do a quick recap of some of our picks, or some of your picks, from last week. Our two captains, Austin Hooper, Noah Fant, kind of underperformed a little bit, but let's be honest, last Thursday's game was just awful. Really did not play into what a lot of us thought it would play into be. But one star from that game that we did mention as a flex option in both of these lineups, one Earnest Johnson. Doug, talk a little bit about Johnson.
Exactly. And before we went on the show, if you'll remember, I said, I think this is going to be kind of an ugly game, but I'm kind of scared to let that reflect on my lineups. I said maybe a 17-13 game with it raining, and we actually looked at the weather, and I was like, it just seems like a gloomy game. But anyway, I'm not going to say that I was counting the Ernest Johnson or nothing. It was just we had one lineup with Felton in. So I wanted to get the other lineup with the Ernest Johnson in. Turns out, if we'd have mixed and matched them a little bit better, we'd have won some serious keys, and if Donovan Peoples Jones wouldn't have been a last minute scratch. But, we still placed. We still got a little money in our pocket. And overall, not a bad. I believe we had 4 of the top 7 scorers in our lineup. That goose egg hurt us, and picking that right captain. So we're at it for another week, brother.
And this is why we do this, to help people choose the best captain and highlight some of these picks. So let's get into the week 8 lineups. So we, again, just like every week, we've put together 2 lineups, an optimal and an honorable mention. Doug, as somebody that's going through and building lineups, you tend to try to save some money to build out those flex spots. And a lot of this is to not only save the extra money, but to also provide a little bit more flexibility in those lineups. So your optimal captain this week is actually a fairly new member of the Arizona Cardinals. And in his first game last week, ended up seeing 5 targets, putting up 3 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Tell me why you like Zach Ertz as an optimal captain in this matchup against Green Bay.
Yeah, and the reason I like to save money in my captain spot is because it usually tends to be, I like to zag when others are zigging. When they got Aaron Jones, we both love Aaron Jones this week, but we both think that he's going to be in a ton of lineups. Correct? Zach Ertz, the new guy in town, so many weapons to feed in Arizona. I think he'll go a little bit under the radar in the captain's chair. So we slide in Zach Ertz. Green Bay is second in the league in tight end yards, only behind the Kansas City Chiefs with, 261 total yards. Let's see right here. They are ninth in the league in total fantasy points allowed to the tight end in DK scoring. 13.1. 13.1 points per game is what the tight end scores against the Green Bay Packers. Take that 13, and let's say that's bottom floor. We times that by 1.5. We're looking at a pretty good day from a guy that might not have been in a lot of people's lineups. Nonetheless, the captain spot.
So obviously it would make sense if you're going to throw a pass catcher for the Cardinals into the lineup. One of your optimal flexes is going to be Kyler Murray. We've talked a little bit about Aaron Jones and the high rostership that he's likely to have. A couple other people in these flex spots that you've put in this optimal lineup, a couple other Cardinals weapons, Christian Kirk at 7,200, Chase Edmonds at 7,000. I think those two sort of speak for themselves. But that sort of low dollar guy that you're looking at here, A.J. Dillon for 1,400. Tell me a little bit about why you like him here when he's kind of been trending in the wrong direction over the last couple of weeks.
And the main reason is I wanted to get him into a lineup is he's very cheap this week, as well as the Arizona Cardinals and what they will do to stop the Green Bay Packers without Davante Adams. One thing they will is match up Isaiah Simmons immediately on Robert Tonyan. So I know a lot of people are asking, I don't see Robert Tonyan in this lineup. Well, that's why. Arizona Cardinals, the number one team in the league versus the tight end. I believe they null out Robert Tonyan, and that leaves a lot of motion offense for the Green Bay Packers. In 2020, whenever the Green Bay Packers went without Davante Adams in week 3 and 4, the Green Bay Packers ran a ton of motion offense and featured Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. Take out Jamal Williams, insert A.J. Dillon, and check out some of these targets. 20 targets over those two games for just the halfbacks, 45 rushes from Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones in the game that Davante Adams went out and Jamal Williams wasn't suited, 8 targets, 18 rushes, 168 yards, a touchdown. And, that's not counting his 3 and 4 week targets. So I see a load of motion, a lot of split halfback backfields for the Packers, and I see a ton of work for the halfbacks.
I like it. Definitely very interesting. Let's look into your honorable mention lineup here. We again sort of briefly went over Kyler Murray. Let's kind of dive a little bit more. You have Kyler here as your honorable mention captain. It feels like it speaks for itself because right now he's looking at an MVP caliber season, but he's the highest priced player in this slate. Tell me why Kyler at 18,000 as a captain feels like a good move for you.
Again, we're zigging, when everybody else is zagging. He's the number one prize player this week for this matchup, as you said. Therefore, I don't see a lot of people rolling with him as a captain. If they can get him into their lineups, of course, we're going to get Kyler in there. But I don't see a lot of lineups being built around Kyler. And check out some of these stats. 3rd in the NFL in yards pass distance per throw, 9 yards per pass. Green Bay Packers are bottom 10 in the league in giving up air yards to the quarterback, giving up 7.9 yards to the quarterback through the air. 2nd touchdowns per game, 2.86 touchdowns per game, 20 total in the season. Okay, but Doug, this is probably going to be a blowout. Undefeated Cardinals, banged up Packers. It's going to be a blowout. Well, what about last week when the Cardinals played the Houston Texans? Week 7, 28 pass attempts, 261 yards, 3 touchdowns, total QBR of 121 points, QBR, 22 DK points. He hasn't scored under 22 DK points in all but one game this season. That was versus the San Francisco 49ers. Now he gets the Green Bay Packers, who, the secondary is a strong suit, but, Kyler is one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league, can use his legs, don't use them a whole lot, but can. And the Green Bay Packers are 2nd in the league for rushing attempts from the quarterback and yards at 258 total yards by rushing quarterbacks. And we are talking Tyler Heineke, Jared Goff, Jameis Winston, Jimmy Garoppolo. We're not talking a real running quarterbacks here. They're second in the league. Now they face Kyler Murray. I think it's a big game for Kyler, and I'm going to pay up for him.
I like it. A couple more Cardinals you have in this honorable mention lineup. A couple pass catchers from Kyler, Zach Ertz, who we've talked about, AJ Green, who could be looking at a big game, especially with DeAndre Hopkins coming in with a questionable tag.
65 yards in 3 straight games.
Yeah, James Conner you also have in this lineup, and a couple Green Bay pass catchers here, foregoing sort of the running guys. Obviously, we've talked about the injuries, or not so much injuries, but the missing pieces at wide receiver due to COVID. Randall Cobb being one of those guys. Robert Tonyan, who we recently brushed over. I'm going to give you guys some Robert Tonyan stats. We talked a little bit about how great Arizona is against the tight end. This feels like an unstoppable force against an immovable object. In 2 games last year where Davante Adams was out, Robert Tonyan saw 11 targets, caught all 11 passes for 148 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's averaging 2 touchdowns per game. I don't know if this is going to come to fruition, but I feel like it's okay to have a couple lineups with Robert Tonyan as a flex. Am I right here, Doug?
100%. And you know, we got him, get him in there because, as I mentioned, those 2 games last year that the Packers played without Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers still threw for 320 plus yards and won both the ball games. So the man's going to come out there and throw for yards. He's going to. He's going to. Do I feel confident enough for paying up the second highest salary this week to get him in my captain spots or to try to get him in my lineups? No, I'm not confident enough. But the pass catchers have to do something. Randall Cobb, an old friend, Robert Tonyan, the safety blanket. Work that middle of the field. Maybe wear them youngsters out in the middle, but you got to get the pass catchers in there. Rogers is still going to Roger.
And a few other very inexpensive options that I want to bring up before we sign off here. The third string running back for Green Bay, Kylan Hill, is only $200 as a flex. Amari Rogers, the rookie, who's only seen 2 targets this year because of the depth at wide receiver, is only $400. And again, we've talked about they're missing some pieces here at wide receiver. Another wide receiver Green Bay could be targeting here, who they have looked at deep on occasion. Equanimeous St. Brown's only $600. And then, of course, the backup tight end, who always seems to find something, the ageless wonder, Mercedes Lewis, only $1,000 to plug in as a flex. These guys could be very cheap options if you end up trying to pay up, whether it's for captain or try to get both Rodgers and Kyler in your lineups. Doug, we're going to sign off here. Any last words as we head into our Thursday night game, Cardinals and Packers?
I love the cheap calls that you just threw out there, because last year when they were out Davante Adams in those 2 games was the only time in the last year and a half that they rostered and suited 3 running backs and 3 tight ends in the same game. Love those calls. They're going to use them. Lots of motion offense from the Packers. Rodgers still will throw for 300 plus. Get some over on that right there. I know it's out there. I know you can get the over on probably 275 for Rodgers passing tonight. But, captain, my captain, week 8.
For our captain, Oklahomie Doug, I'm Josh Hudson signing off. We will see you guys next week. Let's go win that money. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween!